Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. My apologies for the lateness. We are uh, dealing with all of the technical things of a live broadcast. When we step up and when I hit the go button and everything locks up, we're going to have to reboot the machine. There's no way to know, but now we know. Now we know today was the day. So. And no matter how I try to prep things and all that, it always seems like there's a hiccup someplace sometimes. So here we are. So welcome, welcome. Hope your day is good and whole. Hope you're holding on for our arrival. And maybe you can pick us up later. Good morning, friends. Good morning. Hey, Deb. Good morning, Karen. Thanks for hanging in there and to see if we'd come along. We had, I just can't always get the machine working right here, so. Little 30 years of Hard Rock Cafe over here. Very exciting. It's the big mug. That's what we know about the Hard Rock Cafe, and sometimes we need the big mug. So, all right. A few others coming along this morning. Get going. All right, friends. Good morning. Let's get going. It is the 18th day of June on this 11/11-ish. So welcome and glad you're a part of this journey. You know, we're often kind of fighting things out these days. It's just the nature of the world as it is that whether we're encountering grief and we're trying to get through a hard day, whether we're encountering loss and loss of job, loss of difficulty, loss of health, whatever, like that it does seem, so many people I know seem to be kind of in the battle a little bit. So, one of the things that is at the core of this, and that particularly the Bible invites us to, is to be an encourager. Now, not everybody has a ministry of encouragement. I get it. Like some people, for some of us, it comes very naturally. Some of you, for some of us, it's more like, hey, what do I do? What do I say? But I want to talk about encouragement because, well, first, the New Testament tons, and particularly Paul, spends a ton of time talking about the ministry of encouragement, that we are people designed to encourage each other. So, and so this word, like it's a French word, encourage, so full, like that, and courage, heart. So it is really to be an encourager is to give someone a full heart, and to live with courage is to live with a full heart. So, to be and to be kind of a placer of a full heart in people, like that's that in part. It's like it's not just that you give like, hey, here's some courage or here's some encouragement, but it's really just placing into people. And so there's ways to do this that I think we don't think about it often, particularly if we're pressed. Like if we're pressed, we're actually like when we find ourselves as people who need encouragement. Often what we do is, well, wait for the phone to ring, or we look for a text, or we go maybe we seek somebody out to help us in our despair. But often, one of the greatest weapons of when we need encouragement is to be an encourager to others. It's actually one of the greatest things we can do. That I used to know a little, like ancient kind of little lady that had this incredible. She was a school teacher, and so back when there was that school teaching was literally started in a one-room schoolhouse kind of lady. I mean, she was very old many years ago, And she would have this, and she would write little notes to people. That's what she could do. Like she was really old, she was fairly debilitated, but she could write these little notes. And she was often alone. She was often spent, but her ministry of encouragement, just in these little notes of to people that in her family or people in the church or people around, they became treasures that people encouraged. Now, she was a debilitated older woman, we could say. Like she was a senior citizen. However, I mean, whatever. Like we have all these kind of jargon for this, but she was a person who could have used encouragement. You know what I mean? Like literally by the, if you just kind of took the blank slate of things that were going on in her life, like you'd say, well, she could probably use a little buck up, little chirper kind of thing. But her way of contending with that was actually to take it head on and to be an encourager to others. And that encouragement, people would write back to her, or they would call, or there was this way in which to place a full heart in somebody else is actually a way of receiving it. So how do we do this? And so there's this there are kind of things to do and things not to do, but I just want to talk about the things, kind of the 4 ways to do this. This comes from there's a kind of a lovely little article on this. I've been thinking lately, I don't know what it is right now, but there's a lot of things that are coming into my own awareness and consciousness about kind of COVID time and that sort of time, and I think about some of the encouragers in that time versus also some of the people who are running around screaming with their hair on fire, we're all gonna die, like there were different voices in that time, and now that we have some space from it, and maybe the temperature, maybe it's not turned down a little bit, whatever, but there's this way of looking back on this and saying like, oh, and that these voices of encouragement that were in those times really had a particular strength, and so this comes from a young woman I was writing at the time, and I just kind of left some of her thoughts, so I wanted to share them with you too. So, so there's this way. So the first thing is, so how do we do this? How do we do this encouragement thing if we want to step into it? Well, the first thing is we can encourage people with words. Like my little old lady in one of my churches, like her little card ministry was so powerful. One of our deacons, we have a deacon that always sends notes and cards to anyone. Different people take different turns at the wheel of that. But right now it's Nancy Brightman, and Nancy does such a beautiful and brilliant job of her ministry of encouragement with cards. Like she sends cards all to. You mention somebody and in prayer and worship, and they'll get a card from her. Like it's such a and I've had so many people tell me like, God, that card was just, because the thing is what would happen, and this has happened a number of times even with Nancy's ministry, is that when we act as an encourager, when we step into courage, the whole of the Holy Spirit goes to work, and the whole of the divine providence starts to churn. And that you find that card shows up on, the time when somebody had just died and it was their birthday, and that they were particularly feeling low. That card shows up at just the right time in just the right place with just the right words that maybe weren't yours to give, but maybe came from the Spirit. That when we start to move, the whole of God's power begins to move with us. So from Proverbs, it says, worry weighs a person down, an encouraging word cheers a person up. I mean, we all know this. And yet, this sense of understanding the power of what we speak into people. Because when we speak to people, we're not just speaking to them, we're speaking into them. Do you see that? Do you get that? And we can encourage people with our words. So don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of encouraging people with words. Maybe today you'll think about one person that just needs to be encouraged with a word of encouragement. I see you. You're doing a great job. Whatever it is. So the second thing is it is our actions. We can do things. My friend Robin is a master of this. She is the great cookie. She is the great cookie maker. She is a great cherry buyer. Like she's up in cherry country. She lives in Leelanau County up in Michigan, and but she owns stock in the cherry store up there because she at any given time, at any given place, cherries could show up on your doorstep from Robin and she'll just send them to you as a note of encouragement. So it's not just that she says things, but she will actually send you something that's I was thinking of you and I just sent you this. There's this way in which that and even in our actions of just how we treat people, we can encourage people by our behavior, that by the way in which we encounter the person, the clerk at the store, or or maybe inviting people into friendship. Think about that. Like, hey, I want to go get a coffee. That we can take action, not just words, not just saying like, hey, like, love you, great, but we can actually, but to intentionally set out to be an encourager, to be a filler of hearts by our actions. The third thing we can do is by our attitudes. We can be an encourager from our attitudes. Philippians says you must have the same attitude as Christ Jesus had. Okay there, Polly boy, like that's a high bar for some of us. But the invitation of the Church of Philippi it's not saying we got to always be like Jesus, but to have a Jesus attitude. To say, to not just to understand, to have some humility, to have some compassion. And have this attitude that we can say, okay, but really, like, how can I heal this situation? How can I make this situation better? How can I stand for what is right, good, true, and beautiful in the middle of this situation? And that we can bring that with our attitude. Like I know, this is actually probably for me one of the greatest things that challenges me, because I can get. I can be a sad sack sometimes. Like I can sometimes be this, like have this, like, if we're all Winnie the Pooh character, sometimes I can be Eeyore, sometimes like, no birthday, no bother, like I've got a little Eeyore on board, and I always have to keep that in check, only because of what I understand is the way in which it becomes a discouragement to the people around me. Not because it becomes a way of demotivating the people, the very people that I might be sad about or worried about or concerned about, that actually minding my own spirit is one of the best ways to encourage other people. To actually be able to place the attitude of Christ within me is actually one of the best ways to guard, to influence, and to help the people around me. It's great to say encouraging things. It's even great to do encouraging things. But that when we come to a place where we can lean into and trust that the resurrection, and we can let a little bit of that peace inhabit us for a moment, that our very attitude can be a gift of encouragement to others. Lastly, is to encourage people with our faith. That we can one of the funny things is being a pastor. Everybody kind of knows you're a pastor, and when everybody knows you kind of go to you're doing the church thing, like you show up to worship, you do part of that and the way in which people I don't come from a church background. I don't come from no one in my family shares my faith in any kind of practicing way. There's all of that, but what I will say is the fact that I am who I am, and I'm doing what I'm doing, and the fact that I continue to practice my faith in this way, by pastoring a church, by being a follower of Jesus, by standing in the covenant, and standing in covenant with my church and with the people with all of you and with the people that I love, actually encourages people. the fact that, and I would submit to you that's true for the church itself too. The fact that every Sunday the doors are open and the lights are on. Now, people may go down Rock Street and never imagine that they're going to cross that threshold. But on numerous Sundays, I will stand out on the step at the end of the service, or maybe at the end of a baptism or a wedding or even a memorial. I'll stand out there in my robe with the stole on, and somebody goes by on Rock Street. They're always looking at me, so I'll always wave at them. Because people are looking at you. Why don't you wave? So, I'll wait. So it is a little bit like a parade, because if you're standing in front of a big church with a robe on, people are going to say, hey, what's going on? So all that is to say, there's a moment of encouragement that happens in that, just in the rote practice of our faith and our tradition, just in the most basic things of what we do. It's not about having great exegetical Bible knowledge. It's not about having great deep in wisdom and insight into the life of Christ and understanding the tenets of Jonathan Edwards' deep theological sense. It's just showing up. And that actually when we show up and exercise our faith and tradition, it is actually an encouragement to other people. It's an encouragement to other people who can't seem to pull it off, or who are struggling, or maybe they're exploring, or maybe who are maybe even have their teeth set right against it, and they're discouraged in the world. But in fact, when we exercise our faith and our traditions, there's a way in which it encourages the whole world. So friends, there's the four things. We can encourage with our faith by just the practice of what we do. We can encourage by our attitudes, by tending our heart and not letting the peccadillos and the little devils within us spill out all over others. We can encourage people through our words or through our actions, and we can encourage people through our words. And this is my hope. I hope today you'll be a bit of an encourager. Because first, there's so much beauty out there to be encouraged and to be noticed. There are so many just interesting and cool things that people that you're going to encounter in the course of your day are doing. It's worth the noticing, It's like in this season of flowers that we've been in, that little daffodil, that little hyacinth, that little the rose is blooming out in front of the church, and it just always makes me think of the hymn, "Lo, a rose there blooming," but every time I leave the church. But at the same time, every one of those flowers deserve to be noticed because they are beautiful. Well, so too is it of the lives of the people that we encounter every day. There's beauty in their lives. Obviously, everything everybody does isn't beautiful, but there's beauty in it. Just like every one of those flowers. There may be prickles on the bushes, but on that rose, but there is beauty in those flowers. Friends, I hope you'll be an encourager today. I hope you take up the practice of encouraging in whatever way that God calls you to do it. And I hope that you will seek out and receive some encouragement, because there is beauty and truth and goodness in this world, and it deserves to be appreciated and encouraged. Peace and grace to you all, friends. We will pick it up next week. It is Father's Day on Sunday. We are exploring the depths of Jesus's ministry through Matthew in the season. We're working through Jesus's teachings in Matthew, and so we'll be encountering a bit of what it means to be welcoming to Christ through the story of Abraham and Isaac. Curiouser and curiouser, I know. All right, friends. We'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.